Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gianna Zikkos, joined today by Leila Sawaya, and welcome to this special video edition of Backstage here on Goblin Radio and PC3 Media. Today, it is a true honor and privilege as we are joined by the one and only host in the world. He is a four-time Emmy-winning TV host and content creator, and you may be familiar with him for his celebrity interviews, his love of professional wrestling, and most importantly, his podcast Insight, which has amassed millions of viewers worldwide. Please welcome the one and the only CHRIS Van Vliet to PC3. Mr. Van Vliet, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Hi, Gianna. Hi, Leila. Thank you guys so much for having me. It is my honor. It is my privilege. How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Yeah, doing well. How about yourself?
Amazing. Thank you again for having me.
It's great.
Yeah, of course.
So let's start a little with your background. We understand you grew up on the north border of Ontario, Canada. What first got you interested in the world of media as a young kid, and how did you get started?
I think the whole thing for me that really drew me in is the idea about broadcasting is it's storytelling. And I love the idea of storytelling. And I remember being 4 years old. I remember having a Fisher-Price tape recorder at the time, and it had a little microphone that came off of it. And I was pretending to be the radio DJs that I heard on the radio. And I just love that idea that you can talk into a microphone, like the one in front of me, like the one in front of you guys. And on the other side of this is hundreds, thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, millions of people who are listening to that. And that idea of broadcasting, I think, is the thing that just drew me right in and made me become so passionate about it.
I like that. So you've kind of always been it's like since you were growing up, you're just always passionate about that kind of thing.
Like in high school, I ran to become the vice president of my student council because that was the person who did the morning announcements. And I won. And then I treated the morning announcements like they were my own radio show. So yes. And then also in high school, I would host the talent show and host any event just so I could hold the microphone, because when you have the microphone in your hand, you have the ability to get people to laugh. You have the ability to inform people. You have the ability to make people feel emotional. And I think that that's an amazing thing about just communication in general.
You've talked in some of your previous interviews about building up your resume and getting your name out there. This is something that our instructors preach to us and stress really big. So when you came to the United States, you had jobs in Cleveland and Miami, but can you talk a little bit about how those experiences helped shape your career?
I think that learning in school is amazing and it's a great foundation, but you got to get that real world, quote unquote, experience. And you have to see how it's done in an actual newsroom or actual radio station. So I started my career by just reaching out to every radio station and every TV station in my college town and just said, I'm passionate about broadcasting. Can I come in and just volunteer and see how it's done in the real world? I'll trade my time for the experience that you would give me. And that's basically how I got my foot in the door. I started at a small talk radio station, working in the board as a board operator for talk radio shows. I also worked at a small TV station as an intern, which ended up turning into a job down the line. But the idea of getting in and building your resume and stacking the odds in your favor, I don't think it can be something that it's such a big thing to try to get as much real world experience as possible, whatever that looks like. The great thing about now is we all have a microphone, we all have a camera in our pocket, whatever phone you have, that's good enough to hit record and upload videos to Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever the case may be. And I think one of the really big things on top of that is get used to seeing yourself on camera. Get used to hearing your voice, the voice that you guys are hearing in your headphones right now. Once you can get accustomed to that and get used to that, I think that helps a ton and starts to really get the wheels going.
Okay, so let's start with your celebrity interviews and shifting into the wild world of professional wrestling. How would you say your interview style has shifted over the years?
I think everyone who starts off interviewing starts off thinking about it as an interview, which is a crazy thing because in our everyday life, we're not really doing interviews, job interviews, maybe police interview, hopefully not, but interviews don't really happen that often. I shifted from thinking about them as interviews to conversations because we have plenty of conversations in our everyday life, whether that's bumping into a friend at the grocery store, whether it's catching up with a friend on FaceTime, whatever the case may be. So shifting it from an interview, which is question answer, to shifting it to like, oh, if I were to just like chat with this person, catch up with them, what would that sound like? I remember early on, I didn't want the like full interviews to ever be posted anywhere. Like even if it was a 10-minute interview, I'm like, that didn't really flow into that. And then this didn't really connect with that. And think it just got to a point where I think the biggest thing you need to keep in mind when you're doing interviews is to listen. That is the superpower of any interviewer is listening. Larry King said it best. I never learned anything while I was talking. And it's the idea of like asking a question, genuinely being interested in what the answer is, and then following the conversation from there. That I think for me is something I'm still learning. Something I'm still honing with every single episode, but it's something that probably took me 5-ish years to start to get okay enough at it that I was confident to be like, yeah, you can put that full interview online, whether it's 10 or 20 minutes. But it's something I'm constantly working on and trying to figure out all the time.
Yeah, I feel like that's something I've definitely noticed like recently, like when I do interviews or like I guess you could say conversations with people, it's like I'm trying to like realize it's not in like a question answer interview. It's like a flow conversation type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you have a platform like this where it's a long form conversation. Like I think that interviews are different depending on what the setting is. A red carpet's like sometimes it's two questions. It's like question, and it's done. I've done a lot of junket interviews where it's like 4 minutes. So you're trying to get as much information as you can in that. When you have half an hour or more for a podcast, like the medium of podcasting is amazing, or like long form conversation. Like you truly get to dive into this and like really get to learn about somebody. And I love that it goes back to maybe you've learned about this from Marshall McLuhan. The medium is the message. And like if you can have a long form conversation like that, that is in fact the medium. So yeah, it's a skill that I feel like we're constantly working on.
Yeah. So you've interviewed or I guess had conversations with many celebrities, and one thing that stands out that we just think is absolutely hilarious is your interview with Dakota Johnson and Leslie Mann when they were promoting the film How to Be Single. Can you give us some insight from that day and how you kept your cool during the most infamous viral moment?
I did not know what to expect walking into
Yeah.
that room. And for anybody who hasn't seen this, the movie's called How to Be Single. This was 10 years ago. This was 2016. And long story short, they asked me to take my shirt off during the interview, which I did not. I undid a few buttons. And then at one point, Leslie Mann's like, undo another button, and we're not going to talk. So I undid another button, but I was wearing a suit. It just ended up being a fun moment. And I remember walking into that room, and one of my friends had just walked out of there and was basically like, ooh, that was kind of tough. It was a tough interview. And I went in just like, let's see what we can get. It's a 4-minute interview. Let's just see if we can get like a soundbite from this. And I just went in and was just like having fun. And I just rolled with the punches. And it turned into what it turned into. I don't think that that type of interview could happen now in 2026, but I was just like, let's see how where this goes. And I worked for a show. I was grateful I worked for a show at the time that like thought stuff like that was fun, but hilarious interview. I was very consenting. I even said in the interview that it was my favorite interview ever. It was just such a fun moment, like lighthearted moment, and it turned into something that ended up, yeah, like you said, going viral.
That's I want to go back on what you said saying that that was like your favorite interview. Um, would you say that that is still one of your favorite interviews, or do you have one that you still like strive to achieve one day, like one that you really want?
I think in that interview, I made it clear that like best interview ever. I didn't want anyone to ever think that I was uncomfortable or that I was not a willing participant. I was all of those things. It was fun, and I was just rolling with the punches and like seeing where it would go. I think my favorite interview to date is one of the interviews I did with John Cena. And there's just so many lessons to learn from him. Whether you know John Cena as a wrestler, whether you know John Cena as an actor, or you know him as the voiceover of like every other commercial when you're watching TV. It's crazy, right? He's just so gracious with his time. And I feel like that's like time is our most valuable asset. And the fact that he's so gracious with it, several interviews I've done with him, he's been like, "Hey, I know they're telling you to rap right now, but let's keep talking." It's like, wow, that's amazing. There's also been a lot of just powerful lessons that I've learned just through osmosis. And there's also lessons I've learned through him saying things like one of them, three words I'll never forget: control the controllable. I'd never heard it said so succinctly. I'd never heard it said in such a like clear way, but like you can't control what other people say. You can't control what other people do, but you can control how you react to those things. And that's something I think about all the time. So probably John Cena's at the top of the heap for me.
It sounds like that's because he was like just giving you some wise words, some good advice there.
John Cena is full of wise words. Like if you look at John Cena's X account, it's just like wonderful life lessons every single day.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
totally.
That's awesome. So finally, our last question is one that we ask all of our guests. What advice would you give students like us still in high school looking to make our way in the world of media? And what are the most important tips you can give us to grow our content through social media?
What a great question. I love that. I would say the most important thing is be consistent. So if you want to be a podcaster, a YouTuber, content creator, TV host, radio host, whatever it might be, like number one, start, and which is probably the most difficult thing. Like start wherever you're at, start, hit record and go. You don't need the perfect microphone, the perfect camera. You just need to start. And you need to realize that your first piece of content is going to suck. Your second piece of content is also going to suck, but it's going to suck less than your first piece of content. Then your third piece of content also will suck, but it will be slowly getting better. So be consistent. And the more that you show up, the more your audience is going to show up as well. So, for example, my podcast comes out every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. No matter what, no matter what's going on with my kids, my wife, no matter where I'm traveling to in the world, whether I have the flu like I had last week, it doesn't matter. Those episodes are going to go out because if I keep showing up, the audience is going to keep showing up as well. So I think it's start, which is the most important thing, and then keep going. So like just be consistent with it. And also like find people. They don't even have to be in your space. They don't even have to be something that like they're talking about something you're interested in, but like find somebody that is doing the thing that you want to do and borrow from them. Like success leaves clues. Like take a little piece from this person and from this person and from this YouTube channel and put your own spin on it and find what your own voice is. Cause it takes a little while to like figure out what your voice is, but like take from other people, learn from them and make it your own.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of what you just said was like you'll never know if you never try type of.
For sure. And
Yeah.
like the journey begins with one step. And like, if you're just going to sit back and talk about doing these things and never actually put them into action, nothing will happen. Right. And
Yeah,
like you said,
for
Gianna,
sure.
you don't know until you try. Right. So give it a try. If you figure out that you don't like it after giving it a try, at least you tried.
Exactly. I like that. Well, Mr. Van Vliet, we want to thank you again so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today on Backstage. It was truly such an honor, and we can't wait to see what you have in store next.
Well, Gianna, Leila, thank you again so much. Thank you for the amazing questions and best of luck to you in wherever this journey takes you.
Yeah. For PC3 Media, Goblin Radio, and Backstage, for Leila Sawaya, I'm Gianna Zikkos, and we'll see you next time.